in typical fashion, Stets said I would gladly attend as a volunteer. And so he did. Well, Stets rode to Dallas with Kenny and I, and along the way we discovered that he had an insatiable appetite for politics. During the convention, he was a sponge. He introduced himself to every politician in attendance and somehow managed to get a selfie or a picture of each and every one of them by the time we left Dallas. We arrived back in Lubbock a few days later with a stack of candidate signs in the back of the car, which I understand went up on the walls of his bedroom the next day, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I invited Stets to attend the next scheduled county executive committee meeting in this Whips Beach right here, and we've been working together ever since. Bear with me, folks. He's been very active in the county party and was especially active with Battleground Texas for Wendy Davis and Letitia Van de Putte campaigns. In fact, he made over 1,000 phone calls prior to Letitia's first visit to Lubbock and had the honor of introducing her to the crowd in this very room. Now, Stets has spent half of his high school career at Shallowater with a semester at Bridgeport and the rest at Monterey here in Lubbock. And he has been a student teacher at Roy Roberts, Guadalupe, and Alderson. Did I get that right?
You did.
Thank you. Now he attends South Plains College and serves as the founder of South Plains College Democrats. He intends to study at TCU after SPC and wants to live in Wedgwood East, South Fort Worth, which is District 6. I'll have to remember that district. South Fort Worth is where he spent the majority of his lifetime, well, the majority of his time, while living in Fort Worth as a student at Oakmont Elementary. His ambition is to someday run for city council in Fort Worth, and he has high hopes that someday Wendy Davis might serve as his campaign treasurer on the city council. So who knows where he'll go from there. Last Saturday, at the 2016 Lubbock County Democratic Convention, we witnessed how far Stets has come along in 2 short years, as he rose to deliver the most stirring speech of the convention. So I have no doubt that his ambitious plans and dreams will be realized. He was thereafter elected to be an open delegate to the Texas Convention in June. All right. Now I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Murray. She'll be our next speaker. And she is the CTE instructor of Practicum of Education and Training at Monterey. Did I get that correct?
Or Ray said teach program.
Okay.
That's easier.
She is a mentor to Stets in education, for sure. She would like to say a few words, and then she will introduce Stets to speak. Thanks for bearing with me.
Well, I don't have any political background like they do. I'm just a teacher, so I'll just start with that. But I want to start off with, Stets was born October 23rd, 1996. He's only 19 years old. Wow, this is amazing. He's wise beyond his years. I've only known Stets for 2.5 years. I got a phone call, and this is how I met him. I got a phone call from Tammy Roberts, which is the instructor at Shallowater. And she said, I have a student that's in the Ready, Set, Teach program, and he's moving over to Lubbock. Do you have a spot for him? And I said, yeah, sure I do. And she said, well, let me talk to you. And these next words that followed sort of intrigued me. You got to go know Miss Roberts. She said, girl, you're in for a crazy ride. And I was like, okay. That sort of scared me a little bit, but I didn't know. And then I met him in January, and I was like, wow. And so I called her back, and I'm like, well, Stets is amazing. He's really, and she goes, well, let me tell you a story. And she told me a story about there was an issue in his grandmother's neighborhood. And so he took it upon himself to contact the Councilman Price and to address this issue. And I think Mr. Price, at that point in time, they actually ended up in a barbecue together. And I mean, this amazed me. He invited him out to shallow water. And I believe this started his, one of his great mentors is Floyd Price. That has sort of helped him get to the pathway that he is now. But as far as the qualities that Stets has, he's a leader. He never judges anyone, no matter what your beliefs are. And he's a great listener, which for a guy, that's but he's a great listener. He listens to everybody. And he, if he has an issue or a problem, he always thinks about it. Sometimes he overanalyzes things, but he always comes up with she laughs because she knows the truth. But he always comes up with the best solution. He was my Taffy president. And I called him in June because I had never had a Taffy president. I'm like, Stets, you'd be a great Taffy president. And he said, and I just asked him if he'd be president. He said, no, I want to have an election. That's the right way to do it. So I said, okay. So we had an election, and he was elected president. And I got to tell a funny story because Stets went with me on a Taffy trip. He made it to state. We went to San Antonio.
Oh, I love this story.
And we were in the hotel, and he was like, Ms. Murray, guess who's here? And I was like, who? The mayor. And I was like, okay, And he goes, no, the mayor's here. So he starts emailing and doing all this stuff on the computer, and I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so anyways, he was bound and determined to get a picture with the mayor, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I hope, because he was just very, adamant about getting a picture and taking care of it. Well, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope he didn't get put in jail, because he's going around, and I was like, then I'm sitting down, and we're doing the presentation, and a Secret Service man comes up to me during the presentation, and he said, can you please have Stets Bryant meet us around after the ceremony? And I was like, because the mayor wants to meet him. And I was like, what? Okay, so I told Stets. He went around, he got a picture, got to talk to him, shook his hand, and he got what he wanted. And that's just Stets. If he wants something, he's going to go after it. And from that point on, I knew he was serious about politics. I also knew he had a passion for teaching, but his number one passion definitely is politics. But as far as what Bobby said, as far as he did teach also at Alderson with the second grade classroom, and he was absolutely, if you don't know anything about Alderson, it is a Title I school, and it's a no excuses campus, and he fit right in with that campus. Those kids, they loved him. This is Slover, he worked with your mom. And so it was amazing to me to see him from Roy Roberts and how much he grew in just the teaching field. Because like you said, he is a sponge. He absorbs everything. Even if he messes up with a lesson plan, he's like, how can I make this better? And so he is definitely amazing. And for being a teacher for 21 years, I've never met a past student or a student like Stets Bryant. He is... I always tell people when they're like, who was that? Because they always think he's older than he is. He may come into my class and sit there, oh, that's Stets. I always tell him, I don't know what he's going to do in his life, but whatever he do, he's going to change lives. And his passion for what he believes in is just oozing out of him all the time. And his passion, because I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% into politics, but then he came in and he started talking to me about all of this stuff. So Stets, I went to my first city council meeting ever at 42 with Stets and sat there and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. So he got me involved and, I'm like, wow, so if he can do that for me, he can do it for young people all around South Plains. And so I think that he's going to be wonderful, whatever he does. So with that, I would like to introduce, with great honor, Stets Bryant.
Well, let's see if I can get through this while myself crying after all that. Oh, goodness. Chairman Lee, Mr. Stanley, Mrs. Murray, Dr. Landry, family and friends, this has been the voyage of a lifetime, and our ship has certainly set sail. Let me say that we will sail many sounds and cross the vastness of oceans, because we have all come together to stand together as one. Thank you, all of you, for a reception that I shall never forget. I stand before you this evening confident in the compassion and perseverance my mother worked hard to instill in me, remembering the two idioms she would always say: if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, and never be afraid to do the unpopular when you know in your heart that it is the right thing to do. Well, I am Stets Bryant, president of South Plains College Democrats, and I have something to say. In front of my God, my family, and my friends, I am beyond blessed to announce that I am a candidate for Texas delegate to the Democratic National Convention this year. Why? It is time to stand up and speak out. It is time to fight for our cause of progressivism. It is time to do the unpopular by igniting the promise of America and pursue the legacies that our parents left to us, the legacies our grandparents left to them. Their legacies embody the tasks that we see today. Generations before us promoted some of them, but it is time for our generation to advocate for each and every task left before us to better our society. In these times, we need a delegate who will champion economic justice and securities in the U.S. and global economies, one who will protect and preserve civil liberties and civil rights, who will promote global peace and security, a champion who will advance environmental protection and energy independence. Ladies and gentlemen, I am that champion. Now, I'm a young kid, yeah? I ain't but 19 years old. I will not shy away from my youth, but I can tell you that in just 2 years of involvement in the Democratic Party, I am the most experienced and best prepared to fulfill the role of delegate for Bernie Sanders in Philadelphia.
I believe that.
And here is why. At the county convention in 2014, I stood up to the resolutions committee, voicing concern on a particular resolution in support of medicinal marijuana, advocating for a provision that ensured cancerous teens the same medical right as a grown adult. Passionate about our candidates, I called over 1,000 voters on behalf of Senator Wendy Davis in less than 2 days. Less than a week later, I introduced Senator Leticia Vanderpoot, the chair of the Rules Committee at the National Convention, on her first campaign stop through Lubbock. The following weekend, I traveled all the way to Austin to see Senator Davis for myself in action. Her campaign gave me an internship as a fellow, and the Austin County Solace campaign hired me on as deputy campaign manager. When my age prevented me from delegating the state convention, I signed up to volunteer. I talked to each of our candidates to make sure that each of your voices were heard, and that they would commit to coming here personally to hear from you, and they did. In 2015, I cast my support behind Bernie Sanders because I knew that as a progressive, he would take a stand and give a voice to equality and opportunity. For a short while, I helped organize for West Texans for Bernie by helping as needed with technology at the weekly meetings. However, upon graduation from high school and registration to college, I realized that God had a stronger calling for me. In this very room, during a county executive committee meeting, I decided that it was up to me to found South Plains College Democrats. Single-handedly, after several failed attempts from others before me, I got it done. Because of this triumph, and me spending my summer as an office volunteer with Chairman Flores in our own county headquarters, I received a special recognition at the Blue Skies Banquet with invitations sent to Representative Garnet Coleman, Director of Legislative Affairs Glenn Maxey, and Congressman Pete Gallego. It brings me great joy to report to you that as a band sponsor and as president of South Plains College Democrats, there isn't a single student in the Shallowater Mustang Marching Band or at South Plains College who doesn't know of Bernie Sanders. But I believe they should know what he stands for, and I have tried to do just that this year. Less than a week ago, I had the honor of speaking at the Lubbock County Democratic Convention just prior to Councilman Victor Hernandez and Chairwoman-elect Marjorie Reynolds. I stressed the importance of progressivism and made sure that the delegates knew why I believed Bernie Sanders was the right choice for President of the United States. I was blessed to be appointed by Chairman Kenny Kettner to the Resolutions Committee, where I could further advocate the progressive promise. I pushed for 2 resolutions, one in opposition of Citizens United, the other in support of transgender education, both of which passed and were submitted to the state committee, and I was the last person to be selected by the nominations committee to serve as an at-large delegate to the Texas Democratic Convention. We are fighting not only for Bernie Sanders and progressivism, we are fighting for our lives. There is no one more qualified to fight for these 3. There is no one more qualified to serve as Texas National Delegate in the city of brotherly love. In closing, let me say that you are the bow to my ship. My faith in God, my love for my family and for my friends are what guide me in life. Not gonna cry. Not gonna cry. Without the encouragement of each of you, I would not have accomplished the achievements in life that I have. I am thankful for your attendance today and for the blessing of those who could not be here. But I need your endless support and your never-ending prayers as I travel these counties and talk personally with every delegate. I will take my campaign, I will take our cause to each of them. Whether or not I am victorious at the ballot, I will be victorious at heart, because one thing my opponents will not have is the support of all of you at their side. So I know we will set the anchor at our port, but on this Good Friday, at an hour before sunset, let us raise the compass together. May our Lord shine his blessings down upon each of you. Let us go forth, and may he bless the great state of Texas. Thank you very much.
Wish I had your control.
It's up, it's just
One more minute and I would have lost my control.
Well, before we adjourn, Stets has agreed to take questions if anybody has any questions.
I do. I have a question. Exactly when you're running for this, what is the procedure to get yourself elected here?
Well, you have to file with the state Texas Democratic Party. For that, you have to have your voter. You have to be a registered voter who voted in the Democratic primary. If you did not vote in the Democratic primary, then you have to take an oath that you didn't vote in any other primary. Which in Lubbock County we only offer Republican and Democratic primaries. And then you have to have that form notarized, which I had at 12:30 this afternoon with my best friend's mother, Holly Sellers. And then you have to either scan that and send it to the Texas Democratic Party or mail it in. And they will send you a list of delegates on behalf of Bernie Sanders, as I am a choice, as I have cast my support for Bernie Sanders. And it is up to you to discuss things with them, to take a campaign to them, email them, and explain to them why you believe that you are the best choice for national delegate. And they will elect you on the first day at the Senate caucus at the Texas Democratic Convention. Now, the way that it works is because Hillary Clinton won the Texas primary, every district that she won, her delegation gets the first opportunity to choose their delegate. And whether or not they choose a man or a woman, the Bernie delegation has to choose the opposite. So I'm just hoping that we can have a female Hillary supporter, because if not, then I'll have to run another campaign for at-large delegate.
And how many delegates will go to?
From Senate District 28, there will be 2 delegates. It varies by the amount of Democratic voters in each Senate district. Some Senate districts don't have any.
That's a complicated deal.
It is a complicated deal, but I'm prepared to take the challenge.
There's 2 chances to do it.
Gotta go.
Thank you.
Anybody
I
else?
gotta go work.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess this question kind of.
Lay it on me.
Say, let's just play the what if game.
Okay,
We're all Democrats.
not all of us.
Not all of us. Well, despite that one, are you dedicated to preventing a Republican being in the White House?
Absolutely.
That's all I need to know.
Okay. You know, I will admit, the Republican at this point that I am dedicated to preventing is Mr. Trump. For reasons that I would hope that everyone in this room would agree upon, I do not trust him mentally, to be truly honest, as President of the United States. I have met, when every candidate was in office, I had met when every candidate was in the campaign season, I had met approximately 1/4. One of those happened to be Senator Cruz. And with all due respect to Senator Cruz, he is a jackass in person. But I trust him with his hands on the nuclear launch codes than Mr. Trump. Now, it is looking like Mr. Trump will be the Republican nominee, and I will do everything that I can personally to advocate for whoever the Democratic nominee is.
Good enough for me.
Stets, I might take issue with you on Cruz.
Well, I know that he sat in that very chair in your barbershop and lied to you.
I don't want him.
I don't want him either. There is the only
I don't want
Republican
him
that I will be honest, the only reasonable Republican that I think that we have as a presidential candidate is your candidate, Governor Kasich.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
But I do believe that both Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders advocate for more of the causes that I believe in than Governor Kasich.
Here, here.
Just so y'all know, I mean, we have a small group, but I did go to the Houston convention during the presidential year and saw the way people campaigned to become a national delegate. And there's a lot of activity going on. You'll see candidates walking through the entire hall, going down every row, passing out cards, meeting people and so forth. And so he has a big task ahead of him if he has to run for an at-large delegate. He has a very good chance, one male, one female, in the Senate district to become an at-large delegate to the national convention. He'll already be at the state convention, but to the national convention. If that fails, then he will be actually campaigning to all of the delegates at the Texas convention to become an at-large.
Not just 28.
Right, the entire convention of delegates to go to the national convention. But if anybody could do it, Stets is the one.
Now, I have one other question. If you're going to be doing the campaigning, what kind of funds do you need to campaign with?
Campaign funds? You know, it's I'm a
You know
strong.
what
I am a strong proponent of campaign finance reform. I will not take a donation from anyone other than a Bernie delegate from the Senate District 28. I will not take a political contribution from a Hillary supporter in District 10 or a Bernie supporter in District 10. The only support that I will seek is the support of the Bernie delegates in District 28. Other than that, the funds will be coming from me. Their work study at South Plains College.
You wouldn't take a donation from a Kasich supporter then?
I would. It would go against my personal beliefs to do that as much as I would love to.
I won't push you then.
As Stetson's grandmother, I'm gonna tell you what I believe. When did you come to live with me from Charlotte to
January of 2014.
Okay. I did not do one thing to transfer him. He told me what he wanted to do. I went and got him. He enrolled himself in Monterey, checked himself out of Charlotte. He has never asked somebody to do his. He has a very strong mind and very determined. Anything he sets out to do, he will do it. He enrolled himself in college. He got his student loan. He did not come and say, "Can you do this?" or "Will you do this for me?" or his daddy's one. He is a very mature 19-year-old.
Oh, I understand that.
He is a Christian and a very kind person, and I am proud of him.
Okay, if there's not any other questions, those adjourn the event. Thanks for your patience on my part, and thank you for coming this evening.
Bobby, good to see you again.
Same here.